I've started a lot of businesses, well, several businesses, and I've sold two. I sold one to my partners. I sold one to a publicly traded company. I gave one of them to my partner at the time because I just wanted to stop being in business with him, and then I closed one. So I've seen it up and down. I have worked with small businesses to give them some help in thinking about how to start their business or fix their business or various things like that. But anyway, so I had this variety of businesses, and I wanted to say that the first business I started, which I ended up selling to a publicly traded company, I did not follow one of Cindy's rules. I did not have a business plan. I did not have an accounting system. And it took a while before I figured out what type of company it was. And it was not an elegant way to start. I would recommend her approach, I'm just going to say. So what I did was I started a staffing and consulting company for tech companies and in the specific area of marketing, because that was my background. And but one of the things, I'm one of those people who's never taken out a business loan. I've self-funded everything. And I'd like to just mention a few things I learned along the way of self-funding. Okay, so businesses, first of all, the business owners don't typically make money in the first year, or very much, if anything. When I started my first business, in the first year, after making $150,000 in revenue, which was a pretty healthy revenue stream for the first year, I made $8,000 and my nanny made $16,000. So I was in the hole. So, and so that's typical. That's very typical. And I used credit cards galore. So you're in the hole and you're using credit cards. Well, that doesn't look so good at the end of the year. But it worked in the long term. I didn't make much money. In fact, my second year I made $30,000, and that was a big deal because I could start paying off some of those credit cards. Anyway, it goes like that. It's slow for a while, but it in that business, because it was a staffing and consulting business, I had a couple of key lessons. Number one, I started in my house, and I had 6 people working in my sunroom. And if you can imagine every one of us on a phone with a computer going, blah, 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 clack, 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 clack. And the noise my sunroom was very tiny. And it got to be a little much, and eventually I had to go rent some space to house them. Well, the renting of space is a risk. That you have to sign a lease for 5 years, typically, maybe 3 to 10, something depending on the space. And you have to put up your house as collateral, and you have to. It's as complicated as getting a loan, basically. So I got that space. Well, that was a little scary, or very scary, very, very scary. And then the second thing is I started to hire not just contractors. Now, contractors are people who you do not supervise. They have their own computers. There's a definition for contractors. So I started with contractors, but then I needed to hire people to solve all the accounting problems I'd created by not having started with a bookkeeper in the first place. And so I had to hire people, and suddenly I had salaries, and benefits, and all of those things to pay. So now we have a cash flow problem because clients don't always pay as fast as you spend money. So you end up with this kind of a period of time of great discomfort when you don't have the money to pay all your you're dipping into your savings again, right? And that business was successful. We had 162 people. We had $15 million, and then a publicly traded company during the dot-com bubble came and bought our business. So that was great.
And you made money.
And I made money. Yeah, but then I want to tell you about the one that I closed very briefly. I love the idea of your bakery, and I've got some horror stories for you too. I started a catering business in downtown DC, and I was going to work with this group called DC Central Kitchen, which is helps homeless people in a variety of ways, but one of them is to help them define a career in cooking, and so they work with their business, and go to school and so forth. And so they were going to come in and work in my kitchen, and I was going to also have some full-time staff in the kitchen and full-time staff in the business areas, marketing and accounting. I had learned that lesson, and so forth. So we had this organization. I did something which I would caution you about. I invested heavily, so now I'm not even making $8,000 in the first year. I'm doing net operating losses. So I invested heavily in it, and that to ramp it up quickly. I mean, if you take it slowly, you spend a lot less to get where you're going. If you try to ramp it up quickly, you're suddenly spending a lot of money on marketing and hiring people, periodically and so forth. It was a group of people, of all, cooks and marketing people and accountants and so forth. And I was funding, it seemed okay for the first year. And then the second year started the 2008 Great Recession. So suddenly catering just sunk. I mean, everybody brought their own brown bags to parties, There was no catering anywhere to be found in DC. And so, in fact, Ridgewell's the largest caterer in the DC area. Their CEO came and talked to our class once, and he said that he was the one who organized that Ridgewell's would sell to school lunch programs during the recession, because that was, the way to have revenue. So and government organizations, that was the other category. So, I didn't have either of those. I had mostly parties and business lunches, and while that happened, food costs rocketed. They went way up because gas prices rocketed and went way up, and so the cost of delivering food and every element within went up. And meanwhile, we delivered the catered meals in trucks and so forth, and the cost of running that area went up. But there's one particular thing. I mean, beyond the financial side of this, which was very difficult, I tried to keep it open for another year, and I did keep it open for another year. Mistake. I should have known that this wasn't going to stop. That the recession's going to be there for a while. But but the most amazing part was the hiring. I'd hire people, and I tell you, the folks from DC Central Kitchen were awesome. But I would hire these other people, and we had one guy get high and drive our car and wreck it, and we had chefs or cooks stealing from the kitchen freezers, and turning the security systems. So it was an operational horror show. But I will say that if I had partnered with a vet who could handle logistics, I would have been much better off. So FYI, think about that. It was one of my many wish I could have. So anyway, but I did close it down, and I do have net operating losses for years to go because it was a very expensive proposition. So anyway, there's the wonderful parts of owning a business, and there's the difficult parts. And I would say net, keep your risks manageable for you, where you feel comfortable. Learn about hiring. I think in the military, hiring is different, isn't it? People are sort of brought into your organization, aren't they? Here, take these guys, people. Isn't that right? Am I right about that?
Yes.
Well, this is a lot different because you post ads and get resumes, and then you have to talk to people and you have to identify are these people telling me the truth? I have to background check people. And I have a lot of stories about that, so if you ever need more.
Wow.
But I would just recommend that that's something you learn about if you're starting a business that will involve employees.